Welcome back, my friends and fellow FTFLers. It is I, Brett Stieber, the host of the FTFL Weekly Update, and of course the owner of the newly renamed Macho Sadness. More on that later. Week 6, it's in the books. The leaders, Markster and Sid, are continuing now to distance themselves from the pack, both moving to 5-1 this week. The bottom teams, like myself and John, continue to fall farther back, now both 1-5. Now, 4-game difference. 7 games to go. We're not out of the race, but things aren't looking good. On some better news, Matt, after 3+ years, appears to have found the website. Nice job. You know what? I'm glad you did, and you found the trade box, even though I rejected it. And again, a little bit more on that as well later, too. It appears also that our very well thought out and planned rules, very well thought out and planned rules, continue to get in our way. Commissioner Goodell, Swart, continues to fight the fight. It's one of those things that at some point we're going to have to sit down and have a lengthy conversation to really get to a point where everyone is happy with the rules. One last thing, a new candidate has emerged for the DSUM, and while an old winner has revisited the conversation, we'll get to that at the end of the show. Let's go ahead and get into some of the games. Now, the marquee matchup this week was the Menominee at 4-1 versus Ryan DSUM Tinian Balls, also at 4-1. And the marquee got blown smooth off the building by Menominee, 112.5 to Ryan's 48 points. Not the lowest, the second lowest point total of the week. David Johnson trade for Markster every week starts to look better and better. That dude is a flat-out stud, 31.5 points. Tom Brady, good showing for the new team with 24. Brandon Cooks continues to benefit from being the recipient of Drew Brees' passes. He added 23.5. Jeff did survive a 4-point outing by Antonio Brown. If you're Ryan, Andrew Luck at 18, Amari Cooper at 13 were the only two in double digits. When you have under 5 in double digits in your roster or in your starting lineup, we've seen that tends to lead to a loss. For DSUM, 5 players, including Justin Forsett's 0, were under 2 points. Bad game for DSUM. Next up, the last 4-1 team, Kramerica Industries versus John Linkowitz at 1-4. Team Linkowitz, 105.5 to 83. Now, doesn't seem close, but this one could have gone the other way. Now, if you're Sid, every week you've been over 100 points, except for the 97 you scored in week 3. Terrell Pryor at 20.5 and Adam Vinatieri at 14 continue to impress. For being scrap heap pickups, Vinatieri in particular, wow, way outperforming any expectations anyone could have had. He did survive T.Y. Hilton's 3.5 and Jesse James' 1-point performances. Again, this game is not so much about what Sid did, but about what John didn't do. Russell Wilson in the starting lineup for 4 points. Matt Ryan on the bench, 32, 28-point difference. John lost by 22.5. He could have beat Kramerica Industries and sent that team to 4-2. Instead, he tumbles now to 1-5. OBJ, huge 38-point week. Now, no Vikings defense this week. We've seen 4 of the 5 weeks prior, the Vikings have led John's team in scoring. Maybe could have benefited from them being out there. Only 2 of his starters were in double digits. Again, that's the recipe for a big fat L. Next up, Radioactive Monkeys, who are all of a sudden crawling themselves back into the picture, where they were started the week at 2-3 against Adam Swartz. I'm Hung, who's also 2-3. Closest point total of the week, 87 to 82.5. And this one did come down to Monday night. Swart got close, but not close enough. If you're the Radioactive Monkeys, Cam Newton, wow, couldn't come back soon enough, puts up 26 on the board. And again, this team, who is literally falling apart in front of us, has now crawled their way back to 500 and is in the playoff picture. 5 starters in double digits. Matt Forte, half points. Soon, I gotta believe he's coming out of the starting lineup. Meredith Cameron, who, you might ask? That's right, who? Meredith Cameron, Chicago wide receiver, off the scrap heap, 11.5 points. Again, big week. If you're Swart, without McCoy's 27 points, this game isn't even close. His kicker, Hopkins, had 11. His Eagles defense had 14. They were the only other 2 in double digits. On his bench, he had 4 points. So he got about as close as he was going to get. He does fall to 2-4 with the loss. Now, we have come to the time of the show when it is the 1 good minute, and we have a doozy for this week. Yesterday, a trade poll went up involving Ben Roethlisberger of the Macho Sadness for Jay Ajayi of the Bazinga. Now, Ben Roethlisberger was offered to 4 different franchises. some of which, after being offered Ben Roethlisberger, flat out told me, listen, you can't have this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. Well, then why do I want to deal with any of those people if they're already taking players off of the table? If what I was trying to get back in return for, at the moment, the league highest score, at that time, now, of course, he's number 2, he had a week where he got dinged up, but at the moment, the highest score in the league, and I'm not getting back in return what I would like for that? So I should be punished then, because people weren't willing to be fair about that. I should be punished and not have an opportunity to make my team better. Yes, at 1-5, I have no disillusions of winning the division, but I only have to beat 4 teams. Eddie Lacy is hurt. Derrick Henry is a rookie keeper. Jeremy Hill, I think, is driving bus somewhere in Cincinnati. Like, I need help. Jay Ajayi has promise. He might be able to help me out. He might be able to get me into the playoff picture. Ben Roethlisberger was going to be on my bench. That's just the way it was going to be. And so, because of that, I offered him up. For Jay Ajayi, it was accepted. Your job is to not be my GM. This has nothing to do with my brother and any sort of winning. I don't want to see him win. I'd like to see him lose every week. All right, well, that's been 1 good minute. Hopefully you vote the right way and not, I guess, any sort of collusion and make it my fault because people didn't want to give it up fair value. Anyways, 2 games left to cover. Pack Attack at 1-4 coming up against the just mentioned Bazinga at 3-2. And wow, Pack Attack blew it out the box. The Breeze Buzzsaw. Now, the original Breeze Buzzsaw was the big 50, but 40 points from Drew Brees all but put this thing out of reach right off the gate for Bazinga. Welcome back, Lamar Miller, 23.5. Welcome back, Rob Gronkowski, 19.5. Terrence West at 22 on the bench, but it didn't matter because he piled up. Alton Breeze set the pace for this team early in the match. If you're Bazinga, all but 2, 7-9 in double digits this week. Should have been an automatic W. He doesn't quite get it done. Welcome back, Jonathan Stewart. Returns, puts 16 points on the board. Now, had Andy played the aforementioned Jay Ajayi, who put up 28.5 points, instead of flexing Emmanuel Sanders, who put up 4, Andy would have won by half a point. I hope that doesn't come. Well, wait a minute. I hope that does come back to bite him in the butt. Last game, the Architect at 3-2, taking on the newly named Macho Sadness at 1-4. Lowest combined point total of the week. Go figure. At this point, you kind of assume that was coming. 87 points for the Architect, 66.5 for the Macho Sadness. Eli put up 34, most of which came in the final 17 minutes of the game. Again, I think I developed an ulcer watching those stats pile up. It was ridiculous. Only other player on the Architect team that was above 12 points was Cole. I was just picked up off the scrap heap. Beasley, who hung 17 on the Green Bay Packers, and myself, respectively. For me, really only one bright spot. Christine Michaels, 17.5 points. Next week, Mike Evan comes back, so maybe we'll add a little few more points, and maybe, just maybe, there's some running back help coming. The tight end carousel continues. Martellus Bennett, 4.5 points. I just can't win. Here we are, stud of the week. This one's an easy one. Drew Brees, the Buzzsaw, 40 points, pushes the Pack Attack to 2-4. Huge week for him. The dud of the week, we're just going to call this group the Flimsy 5. Forsett, 0. Carlos Hyde, 2. Crabtree, 1. Delaney Walker, half point. And some guy named Chris Boswell, who I believe kicks for the Steelers, put up 1 point. A combined 4.5 points for one of the premier teams in the league. Isn't going to get it done. The DSUM update, we kind of followed along in the chat board, and even Matt, you too, you saw this. Adam Swartz, 6 running backs on his roster. Only 1 was active for the game. Now, he says, well, it was a late scratch. I had chores to do around the house. This is the violin. Do you hear it? Boo-hoo. Plan ahead. Now, also, I think worth considering or worth mentioning is that the David Johnson trade continues to build steam. Now, granted, Eric Decker got hurt. I have no control over that. He was part of this trade via the draft pick I got. But it's looking like maybe that was a bad move. Next week's matchups, Phenomena 5-1, taking on the Macho Sadness at 1-5. Ryan Deesum, City of the Balls, 4-2, taking on Bazinga at 3-3. That should be a pretty good matchup. Adam Swartz, I'm hung 2-4, taking on Linkowitz, who desperately needs to win at 1-5. Kramerica at 5-1, hoping to go to 6-1, taking on the now surging Radioactive Monkeys, who are 3-3. The Pack Attack at 2-4 takes on the Architect, who is 4-2. Now, one last thing this week. Lot mentioned about Aaron Rodgers and what could possibly be happening. Why is he struggling? What has happened to the amazing quarterback that is Aaron Rodgers? Some people just say he's lost his touch. Some people are blaming Mike McCarthy. Some people are even blaming Olivia Munn. Now, I am here to say that 1.5 years ago, I changed my team name to the Macho Madness. The Macho Madness didn't win the 2003 FTFL championship. The Macho Madness didn't win the 2014 third place championship. No. Aaron Rodgers didn't agree to join the Macho Madness. He agreed to be a Hulkamaniac. So it was with that I will tell you right here, right now, starting this Thursday, the Hulkamaniacs are back